But, Professor, piped up Parvati Patel, you probably have to use dark magic to open it.
Just because a wizard doesn't use dark magic doesn't mean he can't, Miss Pennyfeather, snapped Professor Binns. I repeat, if the likes of Dumbledore.
But maybe you've got to be related to Slytherin, so Dumbledore couldn't, began Dean Thomas, but Professor Binns had had enough.
This will do, he said sharply. It is a myth. It does not exist. There is not a shred of evidence that Slytherin ever built so much as a secret broom cupboard. I regret telling you such a foolish story. We will return, if you please, to history, to solid, believable, verifiable fact.
And within 5 minutes the class had sunk back into its usual torpor.
I always knew that Salazar Slytherin was a twisted old loony,
Ron told Harry and Hermione as they fought their way through the teeming corridors at the end of the lesson to drop off their bags before dinner.
but I never knew he started all this pure blood stuff. I wouldn't be in his house if you paid me. Honestly, if the Sorting Hat had tried to put me in Slytherin, I'd have gotten the train straight back home.
Hermione nodded fervently, but Harry didn't say anything. His stomach had just dropped unpleasantly. Harry had never told Ron and Hermione that the Sorting Hat had seriously considered putting him in Slytherin. He could remember, as though it were yesterday, the small voice that had spoken in his ear when he placed the hat on his head a year before.
You could be great, you know. It's all here in your head. And Slytherin would help you on the way to greatness, no doubt about that.
But Harry, who had already heard of Slytherin House's reputation for turning out dark wizards, had thought desperately, "Not Slytherin," and the hat said,
Oh, well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor.
and they were shunted along in the throng. As they were shunted along in the throng, Colin Creevey went past.
Hiya, Harry.
"Hello, Colin," Harry said automatically. "Harry, a boy in my class has been saying you're—" But Colin was so small he couldn't fight against the tide of people bearing him toward the great hall. They heard him speak, "See you, Harry," and he was gone.
What's a boy in his class saying about you?
Hermione wondered.
That I'm Slytherin's heir, I expect, said Harry,
his stomach dropping another inch or so as he suddenly remembered the way Justin Filch Fletchley had run away from him at lunchtime.
People here believe anything, said Ron in disgust.
The crowd thinned, and they were able to climb the next staircase without difficulty.
Do you really think there's a Chamber of Secrets? Ron asked Hermione.
I don't know, she said, frowning.
Dumbledore couldn't cure Miss Norris, and that makes me think that whatever attacked her might not be, well, human.
As she spoke, they turned a corner and found themselves at the end of the very corridor where the attack had happened. They stopped and looked. The scene was just as it had been that night, except that there was no stiff cat hanging from the torch bracket, and an empty chair stood against the wall bearing the message, "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened."
That's where Filch has been keeping guard,
Ron muttered. They looked at each other. The corridor was deserted.
Can't hurt to have a poke around,
said Harry, dropping his bag, getting to his hands and knees so that he could crawl along searching for clues.
Scorch marks, he said, here and here. Come and look at this, said Hermione. This is funny.
Harry got up and crossed to the window next to the message on the wall. Hermione was pointing at the topmost pane, where around 20 spiders were scuttling, apparently fighting to get through a small crack. A long silvery thread was dangling like a rope, as though they had all climbed in there in a hurry to get outside.
Have you ever seen spiders act like that? said Hermione wonderingly. No, said Harry. Have you, Ron? Ron?
He looked over his shoulder. Ron was standing well back and seemed to be fighting the impulse to run.
What's up? said Harry. I don't like spiders, said Ron tensely. I never knew that, said Hermione, looking at Ron in surprise. You've used spiders in potions loads of times. I don't mind them dead, said Ron, who was carefully looking anywhere but at the window. I just don't like the way they move. Hermione giggled. It's not funny, said Ron fiercely. If you must know, when I was 3, Fred turned my Teddy into a great big filthy spider because I broke his toy broomstick. You wouldn't like them either if you'd been holding your bear and suddenly it had too many legs and—" He broke off, shuddering. Hermione was obviously still trying not to laugh. Feeling they had better get off the subject, Harry said, "Remember all that water on the floor? Where did that come from? Someone's mopped it up." "It was about here," said Ron, recovering himself to walk a few paces past Filch's chair and pointing. "Level with this door." He reached for the brass doorknob, but suddenly withdrew his hand, as though he'd been burned. "What's the matter?" said Harry. "Can't go in there. That's a girl's toilet." "Oh, Ron, there won't be anyone in there," said Hermione, standing up and coming over. "That's Moaning Myrtle's place. Come on, let's have a look." And ignoring the large out-of-order sign, she opened the door. It was the gloomiest, most depressing bathroom Harry had ever set foot in. Under a large, cracked, and spotted mirror, there were a row of chipped sinks. The floor was damp and reflected the dull light given off by the stubs of a few candles, burning low in their holders. The wooden doors on the stalls were flaking and scratched, and one of them was dangling off its hinges. Hermione put her fingers to her lips and set off toward the end stall. When she reached it, she said, "Hello, Myrtle. How are you?" Harry and Ron went to look. Moaning Myrtle was floating above the tank of the toilet, picking a spot on her chin. "This is a girls' bathroom," she said, eyeing Ron and Harry suspiciously. "They're not girls." "No," Hermione agreed. "I just wanted to show them how nice it is in here." She waved vaguely at the dirty old mirror in the damp floor. "Ask her if she saw anything," Harry mouthed at Hermione. "What are you whispering?" said Myrtle. "Nothing," said Harry quickly. "We wanted to ask—" "I wish people would stop talking behind my back," said Myrtle. "I do have feelings, you know, even if I am dead." "Myrtle, no one wants to upset you," said Hermione. "Harry only—" "No one wants to upset me. That's a good one. My life was nothing but misery at this place, and now people come along ruining my death." "We wanted to ask if you've seen anything funny lately, because a cat was attacked right around your door on Halloween. Did you see anyone near here that night?" "I wasn't paying attention," said Myrtle. "Peeves upset me so much I came in here and tried to do away with myself. Then, of course, I remembered that I'm "Already dead?" said Ron helpfully. Myrtle gave a tragic sob, rose up in the air, turned over, and dived headfirst into the toilet, splashing water all over them and vanishing from sight, although from the direction of her muffled sobs she had come to rest somewhere in the U-bend. Harry and Ron stood with their mouths open, but Hermione shrugged wearily and said, "Honestly, that was almost cheerful for Myrtle. Come on, let's go."